This tier 8 tank destroyer has to be one of the best tier 8s in the game, and of course it's free, so you don't actually have to go out of your way to spend any money on World of Tanks console, and of course that's what we're going to be covering in today's video. And of course, if you watched the stream yesterday as of the recording of this, you probably saw me playing the J Panther 2, and we actually had some really good games in that stream, so I'd highly recommend you go and have a look at that after this video. But this will give you a rundown as to what the J Panther 2 is and why people probably play this tank kind of wrong, or at least maybe don't take advantage of the full power that this tier 8 tank destroyer has, and maybe why they end up not liking this as much as they possibly could. And it's a brilliant tank because it kind of combines both speed, mobility, and being able to deal a ton of damage, as well as be hidden, and the kind of concealment builds that you can use to great effect. And of course it's a pretty nice rammer as well, although, you know, in that trade right there, it probably wasn't worth the 14 damage to be able to take out the Senshi in terms of taking like 200 damage. But either way, it was nice to get the enemy destroyed either way. But I digress. The J Panther 2 is one of the tanks that I feel like has the power in terms of being able to push forward on a flank, as well as be able to outmaneuver opponents. And remember, when you've got 490 damage of the top gun of the J Panther 2, then yes, you can certainly take out opponents very, very quickly. And also the fact that the damage per minute of this vehicle is really, really good as well, because 490, you've got about a 8 or a 9 second reload in this thing, and that doesn't seem too bad. I mean, just there with my food activated, we had a 7.7 second reload, so really, really nice. Of course, if you don't have any of the boosting perks or whatever, you're going to have significantly less of or a longer reload and less damage per minute. But I highly recommend adding in advanced loader into this thing, and also running with the advanced concealment and advanced optics to kind of boost all of the concealment factors, so that not only will you have the mobility like we've talked about, but also the concealment, be able to spot and things like that. Like, that's the sort of thing I would go for in the J Panther 2. Now, you can see me here playing with the J Panther in terms of just trying to make it hard for opponents to pen you, because remember, if you've ever played heavy tanks, if you've played tanks like the E100, or you've played the Tiger 2, or any of the kind of German kind of heavy tanks that have decent armor, things like the Maus, then you'll know exactly what side scraping and exactly what angling can really do. And the J Panther is perfect for this, because remember, it is a TD at heart, and it has this really, really good armor in terms of its layout, and it makes people always wonder which is the best way to pen the J Panther. And some people will just auto aim it, thinking, oh, it's just a German TD, it's a tier 8, no, I'm always going to be able to pen it. But actually, because of the angling of the armor, you can make people auto ricochet, and sometimes it's really, really good to over angle your armor dependent on the situation, because people will be aiming for a lower plate, for example. But if you suddenly like over angle and they end up actually coming at like a, I don't know, like a 3-degree angle, of course it's just going to bounce straight off, it's not going to go in. And so that's exactly what we're aiming for with the J Panther. Now, it doesn't always work, trust me, you do get taken out in this thing, but I ended up stringing about like 10 wins together with this vehicle, which is probably down to the fact that it's kind of suits my playstyle in terms of a tank destroyer, fast, mobile, can be aggressive, has a little bit of armor but nothing too spectacular, and a brilliant gun. Of course, the main armament is what makes this tank. If it had a terrible one, then I can see it being fairly mediocre, but both the stock gun, which is a smaller caliber round, and of course does slightly less damage, but is a much better kind of damage per minute vehicle. But remember, it's kind of nice to have the 490 alpha damage at tier 8, because you can just tear through heavy tanks. You can even trade with heavy tanks, and we're going to showcase the more aggressive playstyle in the next replay that we've got. And these were actually the penultimate games that we had in the tank. I think there was only, or the final games I should say, not actually penultimate, but the next one is the penultimate. But yeah, we had 3 games and I did record them all, so these were the last 3. I think I needed like 50k XP and we managed to get more than 50k XP in 3 games because of the string theory operation and the ×5 XP boost that I'm running. So yeah, really nice to have that in the game. So yeah, it means I don't have to grind so long to get all of the different tanks in the game, and of course we are working our way towards getting all of the tier 10s in World of Tanks, and you can probably guess which tank I'm going for in the next couple. Of course we have a few tier 9s as well, so we'll be grinding towards things in the game, as well as the Jaeger, of course, which is one of the tanks I've really wanted to get for a long time, and I haven't quite got it yet. Now, in this game, you can see not only have we done 2,900 damage, which is fairly okay in a tier 8, but also 1,030 assistance, which is very good as well. But I definitely think that this tank can be played in both the spotting role and the camo build, as well as of course a damage dealer. Now you can adapt very well, and of course tanks in World of Tanks that are typically more adaptable, more flexible, these are the tanks that are usually the higher skill cap tanks, so they may be just as good as another tank, but they can be more versatile, so you can use them in different situations. Therefore they are better in general because, you know, experienced players will take advantage of all aspects of the game, and if you're in, for example, something like a Maus where you can only go so fast and only impact so much of the map, like you can genuinely only travel so far in the game in the Maus, whereby, you know, if you have to go from one end to the other and then back to the other, it's probably not going to happen. You can't, you know, go and offensively attack the opponent's base and then get back to your own one if you're being capped. So that's like a very simple approach to what I'm trying to say, but it makes sense. You know, you can only impact the game so much because of the tank that you're choosing, but a tank like this, you can impact the game very easily and be able to move about the map. But considering the fact that you don't have a turret, you know, it's a brilliant tank in general. I've really enjoyed playing it. And you can see with a result like that, not the highest result we've ever seen, and in fact I think we've actually showcased this tank on the channel before, but I really want to implore you guys to jump into this thing. It's really fun, and of course, if you are a more experienced player, this will probably be one of your favourites in terms of tank destroyers at tier 8, and I would actually argue that this tank is better than the Borsig at tier 8, which I know is a probably more newer player friendly tank because it's kind of just sit at the back and snipe because you don't have the mobility. But if you can utilise the mobility of the J Panther, then this far outweighs, in my opinion, the ability of the Borsig. So yeah, it's amazing. I love this tank entirely. I think it's really good. And of course, let's jump into the next gameplay on Mines. So this Mines gameplay is, of course, predominantly one that I don't know, I don't particularly like Mines as a map because I feel like if you don't win the hill, you typically don't win the game. Now, granted, this game is one where we don't win the hill and still win the game. So yeah, it's a little bit of a spoiler there, but I guess that's what we've got to do. But you can see me here, an early spot, really good matchmaking, like unbelievably good, which probably helps out the J Panther a little bit, since tier 10s will just automatically pen you, regardless of the armor, pretty much, unless you get an auto ricochet angle and take use of that, which you certainly can do, but just remember, if anything sees you from the front, it's most likely going to pen you at tier 10. Now, tier 9s probably not so much, but it's just something you need to take note of, and of course you don't want to be sat there in front of them, but remember, you do have fantastic DPM, so you can certainly kick back at them if they do decide to YOLO you or something like that. Now, in the game, picked up 1,000 damage already, just literally pre-firing not pre-firing, but literally just pre-aiming the crossing point at which people go up onto the hill, because if someone has to hit them before they go up there, then it means that they're on a significantly less health, and we're going to come away with a more chance of winning the game. Now it appears like our team are hell-bent on basically taking up like 3 squares in the map. I mean, I'm one of them. There's like 4 tanks over here literally in 1 square, and then there's about 5 or 6 tanks in E1. So I don't quite know what's going on in this, but map control is super important, and of course if you give away the entirety of the map, the enemy team are going to use it, and they're going to be able to get multiple shots into you from different angles, and you're going to be able to get taken out very quickly. So I wouldn't do what the KV-85 done and just jump off the cliff, but you know, hey ho, it's maybe just couldn't handle the pressure or something. But either way, jumping off the cliff, obviously an accident, but it was kind of funny in the game. I just saw him moving forward, I thought what the hell, and then he just fell off the cliff. So random teammates, it's always fun. But either way, 2048 damage done. We're down 2 tanks. It's not looking particularly great. You know, the enemy team do have some really horrible tank destroyers on the enemy team. The Scorpion G, and of course the ISU 152K, which is the unnerfed ISU 152 that then they turned into a premium, even though they said originally that the ISU 152 with the BL10 gun, which the ISU 152K has, was overpowered, so they made a premium and then sold you the same overpowered tank. I'm not entirely sure that that should be correct, but that's what they did. I don't even know, but either way, the ISU 152K is not a tank to be trifled with. It certainly can just absolutely rinse you of health, and this is what I mean by over-angling. You see, the Type 59 was aiming to try and get a flat plate of our tank, and of course by over-rotating our tank we make it super hard for him to be able to reliably pen, and hence the bounce. So that was a good example of what you can do when you're that close to someone where they can't shoot your side anyway. But this is the point in the game where it becomes a little bit, you know, tingly around the posterior, and you have to start thinking, what do I need to do here? Now, an ISU 152K is not a tank you want to be basically pumping out and sitting in front of, because it's not a fun tank to take a hit from. Now, unfortunately for me, the ISU 152K does indeed kind of push. Now, we do the thing that you should do when you have a reload like this, because we have a pretty decent one, we can kind of take a shot at the ISU. Now, unfortunately, he does actually manage to just pen us. Now, this is what I'm talking about with these high penetration tanks. He literally didn't really have to aim at us, which is kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. We have to just take it as it is, and at this point I'm thinking, you know what, this is a bad situation. If my team do not support me, if they don't actually do anything to take a shot at one of either the ISU or the Scorpion, then I'm going to get taken out. So there's no point in me sitting here trying to duke it out. Yes, I may be able to take out the ISU 152K, but I can't guarantee that my team are going to actually be able to take out the Scorpion, and I can't guarantee actually that I'm going to be able to take out the ISU 152K because it might be an odd situation. The tank isn't 100% flexible to the point where it has a turret, so you know, you may be caught out by him progressing, and maybe you're stuck on a rock or some horrible physics mechanic that is in World of Tanks console. Then, you know, you never know. So I'm going to take the better approach in my eyes and actually come round from the side and try and avoid taking a hit from one of the tanks if I'm going to engage one. I don't want to be able to be hit by 2 tanks when you can limit it down and only be hit by 1. So coming over to this side stops the Scorpion G or the Scorpion from being able to hit me, which means I can come up against just the ISU 152. It also means that I might be able to remain undetected whilst trying to push the ISU 152K. So in this sort of scenario, it's a good position. Now, you can use this in your own gameplay. You don't have to be playing a tank destroyer, and you certainly don't have to be playing up against both these tank destroyers. But if you do use this position, you do have to be aware that people over to the left in the camping position in K4 and 5 can actually hit you from there. So if you do get spotted like I just did by the ISU 152, which we do successfully hit and take out, then yeah, you can be hit from there. So and it's usually pretty horrible as well, because the tank destroyers are not very fun. But if you push forward to where we are now, you can see that there's the 2 houses. These kind of offer a little bit of protection against those tank destroyers or so-called tanks that might be sat over in K3 and 4. so you can avoid taking shots from there. So yeah, getting behind the houses is a good thing if you do end up in this position and you find yourself in that sort of scenario. Now the Scorpion, we do load a HE round for him because hey ho, we have like a decent penetration on the HE round, so why not fire them and get the extra like 150 damage or whatever. So yeah, really nice result there. A little bit of a carry. I'm not going to say we were going to win if I'm not going to say that we weren't going to win if I wasn't there at the end, because I'm sure that our team would have been able to deal with both the ISU on 1-shot and the Scorpion G on like a 2-shot for them. But yeah, really nice result either way, picking up 4,400 damage in a pretty aggressive game at the end, you know, where you have to actually push forward, and it shows even though you are in a non-turreted tank destroyer that you can still have really good games, and you don't have to be subject to like sitting in one spot in the map and not moving the entire game. In fact, that's probably a hindrance to a vehicle that can move like this and should be moving and getting into better positions. But either way, the J Panther 2, definitely a tank you don't want to miss out on, and it's one maybe you might want to go back and revisit if you've actually just glossed straight over it and just gone towards the Jaegeru, or maybe you went through the Ferdinand to get the Jaegeru. I highly recommend you do go back and play this vehicle and give it a go and see whether you enjoy it as much as I did, because I certainly found this one of my favourites in tier 8 and certainly one of my best tier 8 tank destroyers, both in performance and actually enjoyment. So yeah, a really good one. But thank you very much for watching. Of course, if you have any questions, if you think I'm completely wrong in my justification of this tank, then yeah, let me know in the comment section down below. And of course, if you didn't like the video, please dislike it. If you did like it, then please like it, because it just helps out the video spread to more people. But other than that, I hope you have a fantastic rest of the day, and of course a fantastic new year if you are celebrating. So thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.